DC Multiverse Soulmates, there's been a lot of good this year, but you know what I say, with the good comes the bad, and we're going to talk about the bad today. We're going to do things a little bit differently though. Today, we're not going to talk about bad action figures, but we're going to talk about things that were bad about DC Multiverse in general this year. You might want to grab yourself something to drink, maybe a little snack, and sit down, relax, because today we're going to talk about the top 5 worst things about DC Multiverse in 2022. If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. The 5th worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2022 Soulmates is the uncertainty of box sets. And when I say that, I mean box sets in relation to collect to build waves, because there have been some collect to build waves that have gotten box sets, and most notably the JokerBot Batman Beyond wave got a box set this year for $80 total at Target, which made quite a few collectors upset, which perhaps rightfully so they were upset about it, because if you collected each of these Target exclusives, initially you paid $100 altogether, and with this box set being sold for $80, well, it's a pretty good deal, but it's hard to swallow after you've already gotten them in the first place. If they're going to keep offering box sets like this for this price, I would like to know ahead of time so I can plan accordingly instead of buying all the action figures and wind up spending more than I would on an $80 box set. But as we all know, the potential of getting a box set is a little bit up in the air. We don't get box sets for every single wave. We've gotten them for The Last Night on Earth, we've gotten them for the Suicide Squad, and then we've gotten them for the Batman Beyond JokerBot wave. All I'm saying here is that if they offer more collective build waves and box sets like this in the near future, I would like a little bit more consistency, please. The 4th worst thing about McFarlane DC Multiverse in 2022 Soulmates has been questionable reuse. Now, at the price point these toys are being sold for, it's inevitable that we're going to see some reuse. But some of the reuse that we've been seeing on action figures has not been that good recently, and some of it has been downright obvious and, well, shameful. Some of the more glaring examples of reuse from DC Multiverse this year include Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, where Booster Gold, the character packed in with Blue Beetle in this 2-pack, featured Blue Beetle's body, and that's always a really tacky move when they just reuse the same body that's already in the same box set or even in the same wave. Another example of reuse that really was not very well done was the Target exclusive gold label Lex Luthor, which featured the same body that was used for the Darkseid War version of Lex Luthor, with the green power suit version's head tacked on top of it and a cape placed on the back. It really does not look like the comic book at all, and it feels kinda cheap because of that. And yet another example of reuse that just isn't all that great is the Target exclusive Ocean Master, who just has Aquaman's body with some pieces plastered on him, and it really doesn't look that much like Ocean Master. It really could have used some work. Not all reuse across McFarlane's DC Multiverse is bad, but quite a few of them have been recently. So I'm hoping in 2023 they get a little smarter about the reuse than they have been this year. The 3rd worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2022 Soulmates is the comic books that come with 7-inch page punches. Now, I know this is DC Direct, but the scale is the same and the way the figures are made is the same, so we're just going to count it as a DC Multiverse. And the comic books for these action figures are a huge misstep in my eyes, because they are so close to having an absolutely perfect concept, and with the 3-inch page punchers, it essentially is a perfect concept, because they're including a different comic book with each toy for those, but for the 7-inch action figures, they all have the same comic book, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because it seems like if you wanted to move these page punchers, you might want to have a different comic book with each one. I understand that each of these waves is themed, But if the comic books are all the same, then what's the incentive to get them all? If they want to do themed waves, it seems pretty obvious that they should have miniseries packed in with these action figures. Or if they can't do that, then they should probably just do a different comic book for each action figure. Either of those seems like a much smarter move, and I really don't know why they didn't do it from the very beginning. Maybe whoever pitched the idea just didn't think things through, but for $25, I think I would like to have a different comic book for each action figure that I buy, thanks. The second worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2022, Soulmates, is Walmart exclusives, and this has been affecting McFarlane just as much as it has Marvel Legends, unfortunately. Walmart exclusives are really the worst because they do not stock enough action figures for collectors to get them. They always are short on stock, they always cancel pre-orders, and even if you order it off their site, there's still a good chance you'll get your order canceled. I had to order Azrael Armor Batman, Nightfall Batman, 3 times before I finally got him. 2 of my orders got canceled. Not exactly canceled, but the first one, they tried to do an exchange with an Unmasked Shriek instead of giving me what I ordered, and, well, this isn't a food item, you just can't mix and match action figures. And then the second time I ordered him, they just didn't have him outright. And besides this, I had a lot of trouble getting some of the Superpowers action figures, especially Batman, because they just weren't stocking enough of him. Fortunately, I did get all the Superpowers toys because they've been a little bit more available than some of the DC Multiverse stuff, but man, Walmart has made it such a nightmare to get anything that they have as an exclusive, and they really should not have exclusives because they're not good at this. If there's one thing I wish about DC Multiverse in 2023, it's that Walmart would stop getting exclusives. They're so bad at it, and I wish that Target would get them instead, because although Target does have its issues, it's way better to get an exclusive there than at Walmart. Well, now that we've talked about the first 4 worst things about DC Multiverse in 2022, now we have to talk about the honorable mention before we get to number 1. So make sure you got that drink ready, guys, and let's get to it. Our honorable mention for 2023 Soulmates is the Bungled Two-Packs from DC Multiverse. And what I say when I mention that is that there's always something wrong with the 2-packs that we get. For instance, with the Hush 2-pack with Batman and Hush, there's Batman with the weird elbows. For some reason, he had black elbow joints that just didn't look right with the action figure, and why they did that, I can't really explain, but it's there, and boy does it look bad. And then there's Booster Gold and Blue Beetle again, with a Booster Gold action figure that is just a straight repaint of Blue Beetle, and it doesn't look all that great. That Booster Gold, he looks really tacky and isn't really fit for the quality of DC Multiverse that we're all familiar with at this point. And then there's the Dark Knight Returns 2-pack with Armored Batman and Superman. And Superman is just the same as he is in the Dark Knight Returns collect-to-build wave, and that really doesn't offer a lot of incentive to get this 2-pack. And then there's Armored Batman, who, unlike the single release of Armored Batman, they actually got the colors on this one right, which is nice, but it's kind of low that they shortchanged the single release of Armored Batman. In terms of sculpt, these are pretty much the same action figures we already got as single releases, so I don't really see the point in this one existing all that much. The 2-packs that were released this year just weren't all that great, and I think that McFarlane is capable of doing better than what we got from these. And in 2023, I hope that what 2-packs we do get are gonna measure up in quality a lot higher than what we're seeing here. And finally, soulmates, now comes the number one worst thing about DC Multiverse in 2022, the side eyes. And this is something that sort of debuted at the end of 2021, but, you know, it really came into its own in 2022 and affected action figures for the first quarter of the year. A lot of really nice releases were ruined by side eyes, and every single action figure that had pupils painted on had this on it. The characters affected by this ranged all the way from Endless Winter Aquaman to the Batman movie wave to the Injustice Reverse Flash. It was everywhere and it looked absolutely silly. Supposedly, McFarlane Toys started doing this to make the action figures look more lifelike and less like mannequins, but it just wound up being one of the silliest things you've ever seen, and it completely ruined the Batman movie wave, which I was pretty excited for, especially after I saw the movie. But when I saw those toys, boy, I just couldn't do it. That was a hard no from me. And there's really no defending it, because the only DC Multiverse action figures that I was able to buy for a good long while, and with a clear conscience, were the characters that didn't have pupils. And, you know, thankfully there's quite a few characters who didn't, but there's also just as many characters who did. Truly embarrassing for an action figure line that is usually very good and something that I've gotten a lot of enjoyment from. But man, those side eyes were no good, and I couldn't be more thankful that they stopped doing it. Well, soulmates, what do you think about the worst things I listed about DC Multiverse in 2022? Do you agree with all of these? Are some of yours different, or do you have a completely different list? I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want to check out my video about the top 5 DC Multiverse action figures of 2022, you can see that video here, soulmates.